Hi. I think that we're live. Just bear with me a second while I just check that that's gone down well on Patreon. Okay, live right now. Okay. I think it's on there. Is it the 12th of December today? Yeah. There you are. Okay, so I'm quite excited because I actually didn't know if my internet or Wi-Fi would be good enough to do this. But I can see myself on the camera and I hope that it looks, which is not really that pixelated. I think if I move, oh no, it doesn't even pixelate when I move. So this is going really well. Last night I did a little practice and every time I moved, the whole screen went pixelated. So I was like, I'm going to have to stay really still for my... So nobody is here yet, but I think I might crack on in case some of you are watching this later, which I think you might do. And I don't think Patreon has given you a notification either of, does mean that a lot of you will just watch the recorded one. So how about that? Should I just crack on? I feel like I just want to hit pause and so I can go and get like a cup of tea, but I really can't do that. I've missed the cup of tea boat. Well, there are 2 viewers. Hi, feel free to chat with me. Actually, I'll just move this because I want to be able to see any comments on this. They're not all going to be this. I'll get used to this. Live streams are tricky. It feels really technical. Hold up. Blue Elastic on Patreon. So if you guys who are viewing just want to say hi or say where you're checking in from, that would be cool. But if not, I would just forge ahead. But I'm just going to make sure that nobody's chatting on the Patreon post, which Patreon told me it might do that. Morena Laura, so hopefully you are on here. So that's cool. Okay, that comment box open. So you did get a notification, so that's cool. So people actually over the next few minutes might actually join, and that is really exciting. And I'm actually buzzing now because you can see me, I think, and you can hear me. Can you? I need you to give me a thumbs up, but there's no way of doing that. So I've got like a little list of things to chat about this morning. You feel free to ask questions and make comments and contribute your own wisdom. I think we're going to be a little bit parenty this morning because that was the vibe I was picking up from the comments on my live stream post. I did also want to mention how I've dropped below $500 again after making such a big fuss of, I've reached my target. I checked out Patreon this morning and it's gone back down to 591. But I wanted to reassure you guys that I'm not kind of really bummed out about that. I have taken advertising off Elastic, but in faith, I'm going to keep it off Elastic. You know, I just know that a lot of people do want to support everything I'm doing, and then actually the money comes out of their bank and they're like, oh crap, I don't know if I can afford that. So I do definitely extend a lot of understanding when people pull out of it, and I try really hard to not let it affect me and just kind of trust that everybody is just doing their own thing and listening to their hearts, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm not worried, just in case you think I might be sad this morning. I kind of just, me and Tim had a little bit of a laugh about it because I made such a big fuss. It's always a danger if you make a big fuss about something. that one day later, it's, you know, same. But have you downloaded your calendar? I hope that you like it. I haven't printed mine off yet. I'm excited to do that. I think I'm going to get to go to the library tomorrow and print it off, and I hope that it looks as cool printed out as it does on my, that there's no big typos in it, because I'm famous for typos. Famous, I tell you. So let's talk about parenting. Unless any of you can figure out a way to or chat, maybe that's tricky for you. I don't know. I have actually never joined somebody's Google Hangout before, so I don't even know what the experience is like for you. Hopefully it's as great as it is for me. Do you know, this is exactly like doing YouTube videos. Exactly like it. I just sit and have the most random conversation piece of technology, and then I'm like editing it later and I'm like, Lucy, what the hell are you saying? I'm quite used to this. So one of the first parenting questions came from somebody who is quite new to this whole thing, and they're wondering about what the first steps are that they take on this journey. And they use the word journey, which I kind of use quite a lot when I talk about my life and philosophies and options. I often think about journeys, and I was thinking about little journeys that we have taken in our family life, and immediately this morning this particular journey sprang to my mind, and it was when we were in Croatia, when we were traveling around in a camper van, being scody as. We were in Croatia and we were on an island, and we'd heard about, it was like maybe the world's biggest cave. There's like a tree growing in this cave, and we were like, let's go there. And we had a little bit of a research. We went to the tourist information office, and they told us that you could drive there, boring, or you could walk there through like this hillside of olive groves. And we were like, olive groves, thanks. So I had Juno on my back, and Ramona was on Tim's back, and we tackled this kind of, it was meant to be like half an hour little big cave with a tree in it. And after about 10 minutes, we'd been climbing. It was really, really hot, and everything was really prickly. Like the olive groves didn't have any leaves on, and they were through olive groves and things, and like climbing over ancient ruins. It didn't really feel that good. And then we came across this whole little bundle of weeny, furry, cute as little kittens, and they were the most gorgeous thing we'd ever seen in our life. And so we fed them some of our chocolate. That was probably our first mistake. But they looked so skinny at them, and we didn't have anything but chocolate. And then they began following us, and we were really worried about that, because we were like, they're going to lose their mum. And so we were kind of like running and hiding behind like ruins, and then we'd like run away, and then one would find us, and then it would lose its crew. So then we'd pick up the one and walk it back to like the rest of the crew, and then we'd run away again, because we really didn't want them to follow us up to the cave with a tree in it. Before long, we were mentally lost. We couldn't find any path. We were just like clambering over these giant ruins, worried about snakes and other scary things in the wild, and we were like verging on tears. Apart from that, when I get worried, I get really like, things wonderful, the hills are alive with the sound, really get like that. So Tim could tell that I was worried, because I was like, what a great day we're having. And we got really lost. We were probably on that really hot children running away from cats 3 hours. Finally, we made it down off that hillside, and we never got to the top. we gave up and came down, and we drove there and we made it to the hill, to the cave with a tree in it. And it was beautiful and it was amazing, and it was a great experience. And I was thinking about journeys, and I was like, at any point were we not on our way to that cave with the tree in it? So even when we were like hiding from feral cats, and even when we were actually walking down from the hillside in the opposite direction of the cave, we were actually still always going to make it to the cave with the tree in it. That was still our destination, and we still, even though it kind of went back down, get in the car and round, definitely wasn't to be kind of thing. And that is so much like our parenting journey. On our journey towards being the kind of parent that we really want to be. So I'm not even describing that as like respectful parent or positive parent or respectful parent, but the parent that we know deep in our hearts that we really want to be and that we can be, that kind of ideal of our own parent kind of thing. Our journey to that is never going to be really straightforward. There's going to be feral cats chasing us, wanting our chocolate on that journey. And I'm going to come back to that with a little story in a few moments. So just think about that cave with the tree in it being and the parenting that is in your heart that you want to aspire to. So what are the first steps? Firstly, I do think that you have to be really kind to yourself when you begin this journey. You need to be really gentle and treat yourself as you would, your own small child that you love dearly, because it's not going to be straightforward and it is going to be hard and you will make some mistakes. But the whole time, just be so kind and just love yourself and wake up every morning and say to yourself, this is a new day and this is a new day that I can try and become the parent that I want to be. First thing, as you go into this journey, just make sure that you're kind of looking after your heart and your and then secondly, I think the process involves asking a lot of questions. And I think that these questions that you can kind of like stand back and kind of ask yourself a whole bunch of stuff that will reveal things to you that will help you to change. So some of these questions include, so when something might be happening in your family, something crazy, I'm just seeing another little comment here that I feel like I want to just ask yourself, do I need to control this? You're looking at it and the mainstream thing that's anything slightly out of the norm would probably be like, I'm gonna get involved here, I'm gonna control my kid being this loud or something like that. But this time just say, do I need to? What is the problem here? What's going on? Is there something I need to step in and control? Is this just something my child needs support with? So just, I go with Marshall Rosenberg, who says, don't just do something, stand there. So just pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this something I need to control? It might be something you need to control because it might be that your child is in danger, or that they're hurting someone, or that they're really, and there is a role for you in that to step in and kind of help support your child in that. But I think by and large, you can kind of step back and go, you know what, I'm just going to let my kid be autonomous here and trust themselves with this one. So that's a good question. Another one is, what is this person needing? So we all know that all behavior is communication, and that's a really good catchphrase to have in your mind. So when your kid is kind of doing something that is a bit like, maybe ask yourself, what is it that they're needing? And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about how my parenting has changed how I am with almost every person around me, because I actually ask myself these questions questions in nearly all of my relationships nowadays. So actually, when I first met Tim, I was really quite controlling. I would like be organising fun things for everyone to do, and I'd be here at 9:05, and then I'd be like, Katie, bring your da da da. I had this really strong sense that I needed to control everyone to make sure they were having the best time and the funnest time. These days, I couldn't give a rat's. I'm just like really a lot more easygoing, and I think that my parenting journey has done that, because I've been asking myself these kinds of questions over the last little while. What is that person needing? And it's something I ask a lot with Tim when we are maybe having a little bit of tension. What is this person needing? What are they communicating or not communicating very well when they're doing this or saying this? And that allows you to really go underneath the triggering behavior, perhaps the stuff that makes you bristle. Why is my kid talking to me like that? That can be really hurt. What they're needing, it takes the sting out of the way they're responding to you, and you can say, actually, I see that they're really hurt because they with a kid at school today and they're still really reeling from it, and now I'm kind of like getting that end of it. So I need to just make sure my kid feels really supported by me right now. Another question is, what's going on for me? That's a great question. As a parent ally, we're always looking at ourselves, because we know that when we're raising our children, as Naomi Aldort says, when we're raising our children, we're really raising ourselves. So what's going on for me? What am I feeling? If you're feeling stressed all the time about stuff your kid is doing, it's possibly a little bit more about you rather than your child, but I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. So what's going on for me? Really validate yourself too, and do a little bit of exploring around your own feelings and emotions in reaction to your children. It's never fair kids to think that your child is the source of your stress. It's actually very rarely the case. It's so nearly often a lot of other kind of deep stuff going on for the parent. We'll talk about that in a moment. Also, a really great question. What is the most connecting thing I can do now? So whatever is going on, wherever you are in your life, whoever you're with, it's totally general, but it also applies to really specific things like, say, if your child is having some really big feelings, or a tantrum, as some people call them, or exploring something you're not really sure you want them to explore it, stuff like that. You can say, what is the most connecting thing I can do right now? And then often for me, it's about sitting next to my child and just kind of listening to them for a bit, or just even being with them for a bit, or joining in their play when I'm observing that they're maybe acting in a way that is peeing other kids off or something. I might in the game in order to connect with my child, knowing that that's going to fill their cup and actually really help them to figure things out. So what is the most connecting thing I can do in this moment when they're having big feelings? It is to sit with them and to validate their feelings, and to just sit it out, just hold that space for your child as they have these really huge emotions. Okay, and then thirdly, in response to this question of how do I begin this path, this is only really a few thoughts. I've got many, many more thoughts. I could talk all day. What is so I've done that, and so this is now building rituals within which you can connect. So when I look at our day, I see that our whole day is basically a bunch of rituals that allow me to connect with my child and just keep their cup full as they go through their day. One of them is this concept called collecting your child, and it was coined by Gordon Newfield in collaboration with Gabor Mate, I think that's how you say his name, who are both really great people to check out on YouTube. Got heaps of TED Talks, so check them out on YouTube. That's Gabor Mate. He has really pioneered this incredible research around addiction and actually wants to reframe adult addiction related to childhood trauma and emotional needs unmet in childhood. He says basically all addiction comes down to not having your emotional needs met when you're a child. So that's pretty major, right? He talks about this a lot on YouTube, so I really do recommend you check it out. But they talk about collecting your child, and it's like this beautiful little ritual where you just truly heart-to-heart connect with your kid after they've been off kind of doing things. So it's really natural for a child. You're their safety, you're their base. It's really natural for them to kind of move out away from you. But they need to know that they can always come back. And here is where you do that collecting. So like when they wake up in the morning because you've been separate in your own kind of dream worlds or in separate realms, 12 hours. So they really recommend that in the morning you collect your child, you greet them really warmly, you have a cuddle, you ask about their dreams or their hopes for the day, so that you can start the day as a really kind of connected and a heart-to-heart way. The kid has been out and about playing, then you then have this moment of collecting them. So it's really making, like, ritualizing this kind of connection, and it really appeals to me, and I really try hard to do it, and I really notice when I do it, like how full my children's cups are. So that's a really cool way. And the little rituals you can do, like we have one where we always connect on the toilet. I've written a little bit about this, but how long my kids took on the loo and how much they needed me there. I was kind of like, okay, can you just hurry up with your business now? You know, or can you just stay on the loo without me for a little bit? I was really feeling all of this stuff. And then I realized that actually if they go to the toilet 3 or 4 times a day and they need me to be with them, then that is 3 or 4 times a day where I can kind of totally connect with them on this heart-to-heart way and fill their cups kind of going forward. So I started doing that, and I've done it now for nearly 2.5 years, and it's so cool. It's totally transformed this little part of our day that was kind of annoying for me. And now they sit on the loo and I sit usually on the sink, and we just have these totally random as conversations, and my whole journal basically is filled with like cool things that Juno has said during our toilet chats, because they're just really insightful and beautiful. But so this is just an invitation to you really now to look through your day and see how you can build in some rituals to help you connect with your child. And connection is the thing that replaces everything, all of that old parenting. The connection, once you have that heart-to-heart connection with your child, so much else just really does fall into place. So on the first question about beginning this path, I've also written a little bit, like some kind of jolly big post actually on parentallies.com about this, and it's the steps to becoming a parent ally. So do have a look on that website for some more ideas on what I think people need to kind of, the steps people need to take in order to become a parent ally. I feel like I need an ad break because I've just been like talking nonstop. So let me just sing. Okay, so Adam says, this is Adam's comment. If nothing else, today we learned that being chased by feral cats is just a natural step on your parenting journey. You got it. You got it, Adam. If that's the only thing you learn, cute, and they love chocolate. So wherever you go, take chocolate. Okay. Actually, I am going to get a drink of water. I'm not going to be very long, guys, so I think maybe we'll go for like 10 more minutes. Do share a comment. This is the time to share a comment while I'm getting a glass of water, okay? Share some wisdom in comments or in the Google chats. See, I'll do a little hi in the Google chats. And then you can chat to me on that. Do you see that? And then I can see them and they scroll up. But just look at our tidy up, because I've got the in-laws coming over later to hang with Tim and the girls while I got a lot of work to do. You should see my to-do list. But anyway, we woke up very early this morning to tidy the yurt. So I'm just going to leave you this tidy view. Tidy, so tidy. I'm just going to get a drink of water. So the tidiest you've ever seen our yurt. There was a comment on my YouTube just recently that was like, I really like your videos, but every single time you show anything about your life, I just want to come over and tidy and get rid of your stuff. I was like, okay, like, I'm a little bit offended. But mostly I was like, I wish you could come over and tidy. Did wish that. It's really not mine and Tim's strength, the whole tidying thing. We struggle, both of us. And the funny thing is we both think the other person is the most messy one. So it is a little bit tricky. We're always working on that dynamic. Okay. So we're going to crack along. Nobody else has made any comments. You guys, I feel like you're all a little bit shy this morning. Hopefully you'll get a little bit less shy as we get used to this whole live streaming gig. Oh, hey, actually, I've just seen a new comment. Exciting. All right. What's this? Okay. Cynthia says, what are your thoughts on praise and rewards? Okay, that's a great question. In fact, it comes up a little bit on the next question. Let me write it down. Praise and rewards. Actually, I'm going to answer that first. One of my big of parenting, the kind of parent that I want to be, the kind of children that I want to raise, are children who are really motivated. So they are driven by their own hearts. They trust their own voice. They really know what they're feeling. They really trust their body. They listen to what is going on for them and then act on it. I feel like that ingredient in so many adults, and I think it's where the magic is, seriously. In my own life, when I've been able to do that, when I've been able to trust myself, and when I've had my ears open to kind of the heart, for want of a less hippie phrase, life has been magical and amazing creative stuff has happened. And that's what I see when I look around. I see that where the really bold creativity is happening, it's coming from people that are able to listen to that voice and who are motivated by their urges rather than the praise of other people. In our home, we try really, really hard to avoid praise and rewards of any kind when they are motivated by manipulating behavior. So I really bristle when I hear people say good girl or good boy. And a really good example actually was we recently went to the dentist. The kids both needed cavities filled. And they had the dentist, she's a really beautiful lady, you know, and she really just does want the best for the children. I appreciate that. But she uses so much external motivation for the kids. It's just constantly like, oh, you're so brave. Oh, you're so good. Oh, you're the best girl I've ever had. Oh, you're so much braver. You know, in order to keep their mouths open, basically, she just is constantly showering them with this thing. And she tells the children that if they get, if it's too much pain, that they should wave their hands or stop and give them a break. But she was working on Juno and she was doing all this good girl, and I was like sitting there like cringing, and then all of a sudden Juno just started crying because it was so painful, just like that. And the lady was like, oh, silly girl, you should have raised your hand and I would have stopped. And I was just sitting there thinking, basically made it impossible for Juno to raise her hand and admit that she wasn't the bravest girl that's ever sat in your dentist chair, and she wasn't a good girl who was doing very, very, very well, you know. And I feel like that's a really good example. Like, Juno basically was put in a position where she couldn't listen to her body. Her body was saying, stop, this is too much, I need a break. She couldn't listen to it. All she could do was just break down in tears, because she couldn't bring herself stop that lady thinking that she was like the best girl in the world. Does that make sense? So yeah, we avoid it. I don't want my children doing things to please me. Every so often they actually do things that seem like they're done to please me. Very much so with Ramona. Now that she's 7, I'll like say something to her like, I find it really hard, Ramona, when you scream and cry in order to make me go in the river. Listening to my body, and I'm too cold to go in the river, so I'm going to sit with you while you're in the river, you know, and just have a short swim, and be like, you know, just like walk off. And since she turned 7, she'll like think about it, and then she'll be like, I'm really sorry, Mum, that I made you not listen to your body and come in the river when you were really cold. I'm really sorry about that. I feel like being like, don't worry about Ramona, just do your own thing, carry on, honestly, don't worry about me, because I just so much don't want her kind of like creeping and crawling around the world, like listening to everything that people are trying to say to her about who she should be and what she should become. I don't know, I just feel like, don't change. I'm obviously not like that. We do, however, we are effusive with our natural gratitude with our children. And it took me a while to feel okay with this, because I felt like, surely thank you is a form of manipulation. And I was like, actually, thank you is only ever a form of manipulation if you do it with the intention of being manipulative. If you do it with the intention to show it how truly grateful you are for this, and if you use non-violent communication, do look into that, guys. It's non-violent communication form of thank you is never just thank you, that was awesome. It's always thank you, and then you specify why you're grateful, what the thing is that was helpful for you, you know. So like Ramona might put all the dishes away. It's not common, but just some days she might be like, oh, I'm just going to be helpful and put all the dishes away. And then I'll just be like, grateful that you put all those dishes away. It really made my job easier, because I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed about how messy our yet was. And when I saw you put all those dishes away, it really made me feel light in my spirits and made me feel like we were all a bit of a team. So thank you. You know, I'll just say something like that. Not overthinking it, but just, you know, saying that I appreciated it if it was a really genuine feeling that I had. Same with pictures and things. I never ever like, oh, what a beautiful picture. Oh, we'll just be like, oh, I can see that you've put so much effort into that picture. It's so colourful, and look at those incredible rainbows. I can't wait to put this on my fridge. It's such a beautiful gift. Thank you. You know, we'll kind of say, so it might seem really subtle, but I think it's all around the intention. And I think that kind of that gratitude is really about a human to human things. Like we love to hear that kind of gratefulness from people. I definitely do, and Tim does, and you know, it's just something that we have in our life as a really genuine expression, rather than ever being a tool for manipulation. Does that make sense? Not making sense. But what about when everybody in our life does this with our children? What if bribes and rewards and promises are just there all the time, hovering in our community, and it's really hard for us to stick to our parenting or gunnels, not guns, geez, Lucy, when everyone around us is doing something based around kind of manipulation? Keep true to your North Star. So this is this little question that I'm going to answer next, which is a really great question, and I'm looking forward to discussing it with you. Before I do, I'm just going to check in. Okay. I think we're good. I think I'm going to be about 5 or 10 minutes more. I'm planning to finish at 10:45 so that this doesn't take up your whole morning. I don't want you to be like, I'm never live streams again. She just went on and on and on. So here we go. Keeping your true north when you have a lot of people in your community that aren't perhaps the same as you. Let's start with a confession, actually. Okay, just so I will never ever be a guru in your eyes. I don't believe in gurus, guys. In gurus. Maybe, no, just don't. Because humans are all flawed and they will always let you down. I will always let you down. I'm making mistakes and learning just as we all are. And I read a lot. That's probably my only saving grace, is I consume other people's wisdom and try and bring it into my own life. But I make mistakes all the time. And just recently, there was a little bit of a punch up in our family. And we've been working through this, and we've been talking about the importance of breathing to regulate. So we all try and do it together. We're like, let's take a few breaths. And Ramona, even, they say it to me if they can sense that I'm getting a little bit stressed out. They'll be like, take a few breaths, Mum. And we do 3. We hold it. We take a big one in. Then we breathe it out. You know, and that helps regulate our brain. So we're all kind of teaching each other about this. And Ramona punched, and then she took a big breath, and then she punched again. And I was freaking out about so many things that day. I was just really stressed and really grumpy, and it was too much. A punch is too much for me to handle. And actually, I was actually sitting there already. So I went over at the first punch. We did a big breath, and then the second punch happened. And out of nowhere, I said, Ramona, go to your room. I didn't shout it, but I told her to go to her room. And it's quite funny because she doesn't have a room. It's only 1 meter away or whatever, and it's the family room. But she went there, and I spent some time with Juno. And Ramona came out a few minutes later, and she was like, Mum, what was that about? You've never told me to go to my room before. And then she made the point. I'm laughing, but actually it was a little bit heart-wrenching, because I don't want to be the kind of parent that isolates my child when they have a really, really big feeling. That's not what I want them to learn. I don't want them to learn that those big feelings are unacceptable to me, and they need to be away from me, and they need to be alone with those big feelings. I don't want my children to feel that at all. Really big chat, and I said, yeah, I was really overwhelmed, and I guess maybe it just came out from nowhere because I was told it a lot when I was a kid. It was probably, I heard it 70 times a day, go to your room. It's basically always in my room or punching someone. Just kidding. Am I? I don't know. Yeah, so I slip up, and that was not true to my own parenting ideal at all. We had a really big chat about it, and I'm not planning on doing it again, but it came from nowhere. I say it came from nowhere, but actually it came from my childhood. It was there for me my whole childhood. And I think if there's constantly things that we're wavering on, so if we're constantly resorting to bribes or constantly resorting to threats, I think that's a really good indication that there's some unresolved stuff here that maybe you need to spend a little bit of time with. There's some really cool reflections you can do. It does involve a little bit of going kind of deep inside your brain. So always be aware that you can snap out of it and come back to your adult brain by doing something adult, like making a cup of tea, making a cup of coffee. Those kind of smells and actions can bring you back out of your childhood and get you sort of settled into your, rather than your sub kind of consciousness. But if you do want to do it, just take a really quiet moment in your life, give yourself about 10 minutes. Go to where you were in your childhood at the same age as your child is now with this issue that you're struggling with. So if you're doing a lot of threats and bribes and rewards, and have go there, and as much as you can, picture it, think about what was going on for you. So when you were 4, who were you with? Who were your parents? What were they like to you? Where were you living? What kind of things did you do? What were the smells? What were the sounds? And go there as much as you can and just be there. And while you're there, send yourself and bring some healing there. So send yourself back and give yourself a really personal message. So visualize your adult self coming to your child self in that space and saying, you are heart. You can trust yourself. You don't need external threats to do the right thing. You can do the right thing, you know. So kind of like coach your like little inner child. Say things like you're safe, you're secure, you're good, and that kind of thing. And then kind of really try and bring some feelings to that little child. And sometimes just only doing that once can bring a little bit of healing, but sometimes it's quite nice to do it a few times. And often when you're there, you get a lot of insight. I did this once with Robin Grill. He's writing a book about this very thing and doing some training around it, which I'd love to bring to you all early next year. But I did this once with him, and it was actually about screen time. I was really stressed. Me and Ramona, she was 3, and I was in this big battle with her. She wanted to watch all the time, and I didn't want her to watch all the time. And I did this inner child thing, and I went back to when I was 3. And basically, when I was 3, my parents were working huge hours, and I would just go and spend at like nice babysitters, but basically in front of the TV eating Wotsits. And I think that what was coming into play with all my stress and worries about screen time was that I was neglecting my child when she was watching the screen. So, that insight, that kind of fear that I had deep down, that maybe I was just letting Ramona watch screens and kind of neglecting her, just as I was possibly a little slightly neglected through that kind of thing, then allowed me to go, well, that doesn't actually have to be the case. Ramona's needs are all met. I connect with her. I can connect with her through screens. And it was actually really liberating and insightful. So I hope that possibly that might give you a little bit of insight with what the things are that make you resort to some of that stuff. Like, what is making you default? So that might be one little thing. Little thing is to be encouraged. And again, think about going to the tree in the cave, right? So that is your kind of ideal parenting. You're always on your way there, even when you're coming back down the hill. So like me telling Ramona to go to her room was definitely, by all measures, a step backwards, right? I've never said that to her. I've been trying to parent this way for 7 years, and yet I still bust out with something as old school as that. You know, it looks like a setback, but in the whole scheme of things, every single day, I am still on my way to this parenting ideal, the tree in the cave, right? So you might take a few steps back, but look how far you've come. You've come so far. You're learning every single day. You're getting better and better at it every single day, even when you do sometimes default. So there's lots of things I think that we can do instead of bribes and threats. They take a little bit more time. So often I think we slightly less in the day. We try and squeeze so much in. And I think all of that rushing perhaps means that we resort to these things that feel like quick fixes. So actually, if you, instead of sort of a bribe, I think you can have like these conversations where you sit and you hear what's going on for your child and you share what's going on for you. You do a lot of this whole connection. You do a lot of this presence. I am the worst at being present. I read the Eckhart Tolle book, The Power of Now, and I didn't read it for parenting, but it actually made me an amazing parent for the month that I was reading it. Like, seriously, just the act of being present transformed my parenting. And, you know, if I could do it, I would make that my thing. It would just be like, be a present parent. That's all you need to do. If you're present, everything else is fine. But I actually really suck at it. I'm too ambitious. I've got stuff to do, man. But at crucial times, I try and be present. So when something's going down, if there's a reoccurring thing, that is when I put all my energy into just sitting and grounding myself in that moment and being truly present. Even if I suck at it for a lot of the rest of the day, I do like to think that when there's like sibling stuff going on, or when there's stressful moments, I do try really hard to just stop everything, turn off the dinner that's on the cooker. I hate to do that. And just my children are feeling. So that's definitely an alternative. So connection, presence, and conversations are the things that I reckon replace bribes and rewards. And you know what? You are rewiring your brain, literally rewiring your brain. Time that you choose a conversation instead of a bribe, or to be present instead of a quick go to your room kind of action, you tell your brain that they don't need that thing. It doesn't need bribes as a tool. So every single time you do it, your brain goes, oh, maybe I need less of that whole bribe, external manipulation stuff. And it rewires your brain to go, okay, so actually it's just connection, presence, conversation. Okay, so be really encouraged that neuroscience has your back here. Every single time you do it, firing neurons to make you a better parent. So be encouraged in that regard too. Okay, and finally, in answer to both of those little questions, I've gone over time. Sorry. This is my final point, right? So my final thing. Sorry if it's very boring, but I am a big fan of a catchphrase or a mantra. And you need to hook this catchphrase or mantra into your day in all the little, it needs to be like a golden thread woven through your day in order to remind you of the parent that you can be. So your mantra might be, an unconditionally loving parent. That would be a good one if you're struggling with bribes and rewards, say. Or I am a compassionate parent. Or I am a present parent. That should be mine. So you have your catchphrase, right? And then to hook it into your day, you do really physical things with it. So I had to have a mantra when I was in England about not, because I was hanging out with my family, about not regressing to a small child and being a dick to them. So I got a little star earring. I don't even need it anymore. It fell out and I swept it up and probably it's gone. But whenever I kind of found myself regressing a little bit, I'd just touch my earring and it would remind me to be expansive towards my family. That was my thing. It was like, you are cosmic, be expansive. And I'd touch my earring and it would remind me. So that was one. You could get yourself a piece of jewelry as a kind of motif for your catchphrase so that you can, whenever you see it or touch it or feel it jangle, you go, I am a compassionate parent, or I am an unconditionally loving parent. You might also put it as the background on your phone so that every single time you pick up your phone, you see your catchphrase. You might also write it out and put it on your mirror or on your car dashboard. So remind yourself, you are literally reminding your brain about this. This is like scientific. Really, you're hooking it into your day to remind you of who you are and what's important to you as a parent, and hopefully that can help you stop defaulting to this perhaps more mainstream way of being. So that is my little tip for the day, and I hope some of that is helpful to you. Check comments one more time, because I'd feel really sad if there was another little question asked, but I'm just going to check it to make sure. No, we're all good. So I'm just trusting that that was okay for you. But perhaps if you do clock off this live stream, do let me know how it felt for you, or any other questions. I'm still figuring out how often to do this. I your inbox of live streams, but maybe 1 or 2 times a month, do you think? But it would be great to hear from you what would be helpful, what kind of topics we can cover, and all that kind of thing. So wherever you are in the world, much love and huge amounts of respect to you, and so many thanks for your support, and keep radical.